Hello and good morning from us here on the stage to the second day of CELUM 2021 with our Masterclasses. Thank you for being here today on the second day. Hope you had an enjoyable evening yesterday in the chilly autumn air, but I think it was quite a nice event to get together, to network, to discuss. Yeah, so here now our topic, how to modernize your digital asset management system, your content hub. And we are, well, of course, me, Reinhard Eisl. I'm a Chief Product Officer here at CELUM. And with me on the stage is my colleague Daniel.
Exactly. I'm responsible for the account management within CELUM. And we are going to talk a little bit about how to modernize your DAM.
Okay, so what we're going to discuss a bit about is, as it was also published on the website, is how to stay relevant for your users, how to okay, and we'll have a look a bit on these challenges. So, is all your existing content still relevant that you have in your repository, or does it clutter up the experience for your users? Are you delivering on the expectation of your users for a modern interface, for a modern experience, do you cater for the relevant metadata model so that they can find the relevant content faster? Are you using capabilities like AI services that enable you to be faster in finding things and faster in classifying and tagging your content? Are your instances resilient and secure enough? And also, do you have issues in planning your operation cost? Specifically, of course, updates are always a hassle if you have to request a budget for them and so on and so forth. So that's kind of what we're going to look at, and obviously a more holistic view on your current situation. Are you covering the whole of the content supply chain? If you remember yesterday's talk by Michael, create, manage, route. Is that what you already do, or are you with the DAM in the middle? Are you simply doing the manage part yet? And I know some people in the room are from customers, and also of course online from customers that I think have a very good grasp on these kind of challenges already. So we're going to have, of course, a Q&A at the end of our presentation, and so maybe some of you who have other solutions than probably we will be presenting, maybe you're going to chip in a bit and also talk a bit about how you solve those challenges, how you approach those challenges. Okay, so starting with having a look at the supply chain topic.
Yeah, thank you very much, Reini, for the introduction. Yesterday was also mentioned by Michael Greffner that physical supply chains are comparable to content supply chains, and I think that goes really in line there, because physical supply chains go beyond single organizations, and so do the content supply chains. But what does that mean exactly? Yeah, it is all about networks. Yeah, so most of the time we're talking about internal and external networks. Yeah, we're talking about large networks. We are talking about interconnections between these networks. And one factor is key here. It's collaboration. So collaboration is key within the network to drive efficiency as well. Yeah? What is also critical within these networks is to understand also the demand side. What is creating demand? What is driving demand? How is demand changing and evolving? And as we saw yesterday from Michael's presentation, he was outlining this traditional supply chain. And I think that goes pretty clear in line with the content supply chain. Yeah? There's a manufacturing process, there's a transportation process, there's a sales process, and everywhere in between you have these customer touch points. What was also outlined yesterday by Peter Lehre was that digital experience plays a large role meanwhile. Yeah? So nowadays, everyone wants to have everything personalized, so everyone wants his own personalized idea and content, and that plays a huge part within the content management meanwhile. What is necessary to support that is also to have people, processes, and technology supporting that, and of course, last but not least, the tech stack, which is more or less securing also the security requirements so far. What is our approach on that? We believe that a holistic approach is more or less needed to support that, especially when it comes to these networks, yeah, to support this global network resilience, as Reini mentioned beforehand. And if you're looking at the picture, there's this Jenga tower, yeah, and if you're pulling off maybe one brick of wood, it doesn't matter that much, but if you're taking another one and another one, maybe the tower is falling down. So it's about resilience. The network must be stable so far. Well, the second part, also the demand is changing very quickly, the customer behavior is changing quickly, the mindset of the customers is changing, and you need to drive your decisions accordingly. What does it mean also to when it's related to processes? If you're looking to large corporations, large organizations, mostly they need to stick to governance models, they need to stick to standardized processes, they need to stick to updated systems in order to achieve also security resilience. Nowadays, everything is volatile, yeah, so the demand is changing quickly, the necessity for creating is changing quickly, and you need to be very flexible and responsive reacting on that. In order finally to achieve an on-time delivery of the content in the right place, in the right manner, in order to have a financial success finally. What is our approach, or what is our recommendation on that in order to achieve it? First of all, it is somehow to burn down silos. So everything is related to the full content supply chain. You need to have a clear view in what is necessary within this full content supply chain in order to achieve finally what is needed and the right result. Based on that, it is crucial to have a single source of truth. So it is not only the DAM, you have interconnectivity with other systems, you have maybe also other parties working with different systems, and it's more or less a fragmented landscape most of the time. And that is also essential to create one single source of truth. Of course, in order to support that, it is necessary to have more or less a plug and play. Yeah? It shouldn't waste your time. It is not. It is to avoid spending 1 or 2 months to implement another system or to go to the cloud, maybe. The second part, how to modernize, is to create resilience, as said earlier. So to overcome security hurdles, to be on the last version every time, and to ensure that you have all the security issues resolved finally. Foster flexibility, of course. Yeah, if you need to react flexible, you need to react quickly on demand changes, on market changes, and you need to be somehow scalable. You need to be scalable, you need to be calculable, you need to have a solution which is calculable for everybody. Yeah? So you need to know what are the costs finally, which I'm paying for. And the fourth pillar is an adaptive approach, an integrative approach into other systems. So as I said earlier, everything is interconnected. It's not only about processes, it's about people, it's about technology. So everything is meanwhile interconnected somehow. In order to support that and in order to be more efficient on that, it is also necessary to make use of AI functionalities to boost your processes. in order to speed up the processes and to ensure everything is on the right track, in the right place, and in the right manner. And how we're doing that is finally discussed by Reinhard in detail. What are actually the plans on our side?
Thanks, Daniel. Okay, so I think the key word before was the holistic approach. So yes, we're going to talk a bit about what we can do in terms of a product offering to support you in having a system that's always up to date, a system that delivers the experience that the users are expecting, and that is resilient and secure. But on the other hand, we also invite all our customers to really that haven't touched the system in a longer time to really, for example, also discuss with us, with our strategic consultancy, or with one of our partners who is servicing you, to revisit how your data model is structured, to revisit the content that you have in there. Maybe that's a task that I guess your power users are going to support eventually, to unclutter the system, to have the relevant content in there, and to not have part of your repository become a de-archive. Having said that about consultancy processes, but how can we, how can the CELUM Cloud help you? And obviously, with Create, Manage, and Route, we cover the whole spectrum of the supply chain, the content supply chain, with supporting content creation processes, with HI collaboration, online proofing, and the paper trail basically on approvals. We have the central part, the DAM part, Content Hub, obviously, with its permission system, with the data model, tagging, search to manage the content, and Route to deliver the content where it has its most impact to your commerce suites, to your CMSs, and so on and so forth. Connected, obviously, most of the time by out-of-the-box, off-the-shelf connectors that are available via the marketplace. Yeah. And again, invite you to have a look at what the CELUM Cloud can deliver, because modernizing your DAM is basically also about extending what you do with your platform, right? Because if you look only at the managed part, the digital asset management system, yes, it helps you to have a single source of truth for content within your organization, but is it really driving efficiency with delivering to your target systems on the downstream side, and is it really helping you on the content creation part? Because only by sozusagen closing the circle, only by adding the HL collaboration part, you solve, and workflows and automation, you solve the issues about content creation, to have teams work together that are not on-site, teams with your agency, your creatives in-house, and have the ingest and the creation of the content also covered by supporting tools that lock into your supply chain, right? Same goes for online proofing with markups, comments, and the necessary paper trail that documents approvals once they happened. File sync and share, I think, is also a very important capability that if you're not yet using it, you should think about introducing as well. With CELUM Drive, you empower your users to have the relevant files always available locally, to be able to edit with the native application. So, for example, a Word file, save the changes back to the repository automatically. I think this is a convenience factor that shouldn't be overlooked, and is something that no other DAM vendor per se offers. And of course, it's GDPR compliant, and it enables you to centrally manage content as well, so you can revoke access to that content, and it gets removed from the person's machine as well, if that's necessary. And finally, of course, but this is used actually most often of our components here. So integrated marketplace, so all the connectivity you need for up and downstream systems to enable the routing of your content to where it's needed and where it has the most impact. So again, this is what the CELUM Cloud can do for you as a package, right? If you look beyond the digital asset management system, and of course, what's also important is what is the experience you're delivering for your users, right? We see that a lot, specifically with self-hosted systems, obviously, where that are not on one of the later versions, that still have users in advanced UI, where also the feedback that you get from users probably getting a bit meh. Yeah? So one of the things that you can definitely profit from when you think about modernizing is going to a more recent version. If you're self-hosting or in the cloud, obviously you will get these updates, and is switching to Nova UI. So there's a separate track this afternoon. I'm not sure how many of you will stick around. It's starting at 3. It's going to be available online, obviously, and there will be a recording, so you're not really missing out. But of course, you're not going to immediately have the ability to ask questions. But of course, we'll be around to answer questions, obviously, also offline after the event, after the fact. Yeah. Having said that, Nova UI, obviously, modern, easy-to-use design. So the paradigm, it was really about also changing the user journeys, to change the paradigms that they used especially for navigating content, for exploring content, being able to filter, and so on and so forth. So it's really a huge improvement, and the feedback that we're getting and reinforces basically, or bestätigt es uns. Yeah. What's also very helpful, and again, more details in this afternoon, if you switch to Nova, there is hands-off onboarding capability. We have an onboarding tool that shows the users around, that highlights functionality, how to use Nova. So in theory, a normal user will be able to start using the application without having to receive dedicated training. We give a lot more tools to the user themselves. So we'll show them the recent objects that they worked on. They can nominate favorites. They can set language preferences, and so on and so forth. So the user is really in focus here. And talked about exploration already. And of course, we kept the brandability, so and the extendability to help you to make your users feel at home when they launch into Nova. And of course, finally, all the latest functionality, the cloud-enabled functionality, like the KI services, AI services, like the Similarity Search, classification, and text extraction. Again, more on that in the afternoon, are fully integrated and available there. Okay, so that definitely is about really modernizing the experience for user, to give them the experience they expect in 2021. Already mentioned smartness in AI. What you see here is the Similarity Search. I've also talked about decluttering of the repository. Sim Search is definitely something that could help you there, because, as the name implies, it will show you visually similar assets based on the asset you currently have selected, and content owners can then go through there, for example, and even remove stuff that is of less quality and doesn't and older and can either kick it out directly or move it to some place where access is limited, so that it's not immediately thrown out, because obviously that can be the opinion of one content owner, but might be actually helpful for somebody else. But still, it helps you with the decluttering, for example. Of course, it also helps you with finding the relevant content if you're working with the system. So you start by a metadata search, arrive at a certain picture. It looks nice, but it's not exactly what you're looking for. So SimSearch can also provide alternatives that visually match what you've found by the metadata search to maybe give you a better option. The SimSearch, by the way, is part of the standard subscription that we have for the Content Hub Cloud. And additional AI capabilities are, as I already mentioned, object detection. And of course, it's a generic object detection, I have to add. So the value is not really, in this case, discovering and tagging your exact products, for example, because that would require learning, which we can do, but it's time-consuming and well, it's a process, right? But what it does is it helps you classify content. So it's very helpful also, again, with GDPR, because it will tell you that not only that there's a person in the image, for example, but how many of them. And so you can actually filter for images with persons in, so that you can check, okay, do you have the rights? Or is that something I have to delete because there was a delete request, and so on. So it also helps with GDPR compliance here. And finally, text extraction is our third AI capability. It's and again, the demo will show in the afternoon. It's able to discover, for example, the Scott name of the bike, even if it's skewed like that. It's going to write this the text that it extracts into a metadata field. And one of the use cases where it's really valuable is if you have images of packaging. So it would automatically extract all the text that it can detect on the packaging. And again, it's about driving metadata quality. Of course, it's not final tagging, it's not a complete tagging, but it's definitely supporting the overall metadata quality by also automatically adding this information without the user having to touch it. Yeah. And finally, what's important to understand about this is that our AI services are self-implemented and self-hosted. So your data never leaves the CELUM domain. So only the preview, only a smaller preview, not the original, is sent to the AI service. And once the detection is done, it's discarded. So it's not stored there. It's not driving any big company's overall AI learning. It remains with us. Yeah, file sync and share I already mentioned. Obviously, also the use case I didn't mention before that's very relevant, I think, is the offline use case. Again, thinking about a sales rep, for example, that automatically syncs the latest presentations and calc sheets, and then at the customer for some reasons offline. I mean, obviously, hard to manage in 2021, but it's known to happen. And central data governance, as I mentioned before. So you as the content owner, for example, or as the administrator, you are in a position to revoke sync rights, for example, if something's outdated, or whenever the user should no longer use this type of content locally. Sure.
So this allows the regular editor user to...
No, I'll repeat the question. It's okay. Yeah.
Does this allow a regular editor user to basically work on Berechtigung in the permissions? Would you say?
So the question was, does it allow a regular editor user to work on permissions? I'm not sure I understand the question correctly, because what it's doing is it respects the permissions set by the administrator. So, for example, if in the sales demo in the sales kit use case, the sales team members, they would only be allowed to obviously read the presentations. So if they change them locally, they are not allowed to sync them back and spoil the presentations for everybody else, right? So that's covered. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, and again, as mentioned before, again coming back to the supply chain topic, by looking beyond the core Content Hub capabilities and at the broader CELUM cloud offering, workforce automation are obviously something that are enabled via the workrooms. Yeah? So you can use workrooms to drive HR collaboration, but from the perspective of Content Hub, it's a workflow tool, right? You start at the given collection with a number of assets in them, and you say start workflow. They're transferred over to workrooms, and then more often than not, obviously you have some kind of approval workflow going on, or retouching if you're working together with your agencies. But I mean, any kind of workflow is possible. You can even initiate the process in workrooms. So, for example, I think Class does it like that when they shoot their harvesters and tractors and so on. So the initial upload is done in workrooms. A down select is done there, and everything that's basically ready to go into the Content Hub is then transferred over, for example. So it's also a way of doing things to start the process actually in the collaboration tool, and then transfer the finished content into Content Hub. But again, so look at your supply chain, look at what the overall offering of the CELUM cloud can do for you there. Yeah. Okay, talking about CELUM cloud, and I mean, obviously, many of our customers are already using that, are on the cloud, but obviously there are a lot of our, especially the customers that are longer with us, they're typically either self-hosted or where certain instances operated by a partner. Well, of course, when operated by a partner, then many of the CELUM cloud benefits already apply. But when you think about the challenge that we postulated before about staying relevant, about resilience, about security, obviously there are benefits of having somebody who is obviously is an expert in operating Content Hub, for example, doing it for you, right? So again, the challenge was providing an up-to-date experience to your users. And obviously, if you're not on a recent version, that's an issue. So it's actually just one of those issues, because for one, of course, your users don't get the benefit of new functionality. And secondly, obviously, issues like, if there are security things, security fixes that need to be done in libraries and so on and so forth, they also don't get applied. Maybe coming already to the bottom point on this list here, hard to plan costs. I mean, the reason obviously for running outdated versions is more often than not, I assume, the hassle about getting the budget approved for the update, preparing the documentation for your users, and so all the things that's kind of that the update comes with. And again, there's a solution for that, obviously.
René,
May I just ask one question? Because we have one from the audience that is very relevant here.
Okay.
It goes to the licensing of AI services for on-premise customers.
Mm-hmm.
So, if yes, do we have to license them separately?
Yes. So the AI capabilities are part of the subscription. So obviously, if you're in the cloud and a subscription model, the SIM search is included, and text extraction and object detection is an optional capability. Typically, for on-prem, we need to discuss availability of the AI services, because it has some certain requirements. You need to be able to communicate to the cloud services, and it's really also a differentiation factor for the cloud customers. But get into touch with your CELUM existing customer unit or representative. There's the camera, and they'll figure it out. Yeah, it also says here all cloud features are optional, not part of the subscription. So, and of course, part again of the outdated versions topic, IT needs to get involved to do the update for you, and they also probably have other projects going on. There's a resource conflict, stuff like that happens all the time. Yeah, so that's also something that maybe in the way of providing having up-to-date version of a CELUM if you're self-hosted. On the other hand, obviously, with the cloud model, you get more or less transparent updates. Having said that, of course, if you have very complex integrations and so on, there will be a certain synchronization needing to happen, obviously, and to get the system update ready. But still, those updates obviously will deliver those features and will deliver those security fixes for you and your users. Again, subscription model versus legacy or versus on-prem perpetual. In addition to the core AI services, stuff like importer-exporter is also included. And I mentioned already SIM search and drive, for example. And obviously, the big benefit here, also in arguing this, for budget and the value it delivers, is the cost is completely transparent. There's the cost per user per month, right? And there's no, do we need to do an update or not? How complex is the update going to be? How much effort on our side? How much effort on CELUM or partner side, and so on and so forth. So that is obviously very helpful. Okay.
Benny, may I ask another one? Because you're just on this topic. Another question from online: what about customer-specific developments / extensions in regards to a cloud solution?
Yes, that's of course still possible. And as I said before, with the transparent updates, in these cases there will be an agreement about the cadence of these updates, and to be able to prepare those integrations and customizations ahead of the update, obviously. Usually that's a very straightforward task. The differences between versions, API changes and so on and so forth, they're pretty limited, and it's something that can be easily integrated. But again, in these cases, obviously there's not completely transparent updates. There will be an agreement as to how often and in which cadence, so that obviously there's a preparation for exactly the custom code. Having talked about on-premise versus cloud, obviously there needs to be a way of getting your on-premise solution into the cloud if you choose to do so, right? And that's something that we've done a lot in the past year, and it's a pretty straightforward. It's a pretty easy process, really, nothing to be scared about. It's more or less just eine Umpflanzung. It's basically taking your existing system, cloning it, and deploying it in the cloud. It obviously completely retains all your data, right? All the business configuration, the object histories, everything. And also customizations, yeah. And there are certain factors that determine whether it's in the matter of something that takes 2 weeks from start to finish. I'm talking about Durchlaufzeit, right? Not effort, obviously, or maybe it's a bit longer. But just to give you a short hint, so the database you're using can be a bit of a factor. If there are more than one environment that needs to be migrated, obviously that is a factor. If there needs to be a version update done via the migration is happening, that's a factor, obviously. And if that's necessary, then also there's the question, how recent is the version we're updating from? Because that also drives effort a bit, to be honest. And of course, as the question already indicated before, are there customizings that need adapting? And if we need to switch the authentication mechanism. But again, of course, this whole process is accompanied by our consultancy, by your ECU representative. So you'll be guided through there. But again, very straightforward and easy. Nothing to be afraid of. And there's a question.
Just a question about database. How do you deal with the fact if somebody is running on his on-premise instance, Oracle, for example?
Yeah, so database is a factor exactly in those cases. So in the cloud, it's a Microsoft SQL Server, right? Because we're on Azure. And if you're on MySQL locally or Oracle, we need to transform your database, the database dump you provide to us. Where there's tools, we do that. Yeah. It's very straightforward. It just adds a bit of effort, but it's doable.
You do it, or
no? We do it for you. Yeah. Yeah, and then having talked about all those updates, just to give you an idea what happened over the last quarter, more or less, right? So as you can see, Content Hub actually receives functional updates every 2 to 3 months, bigger updates. I mean, obviously there are fixed versions between those, but these are the feature releases. And so the next one is going to be 21.9 in the 3rd week of September. And when we have a look at Nova this afternoon, I'm going to show you this version, the latest version, what you can do there. And the version after that is going to be 21.12, the extended service, next extended service release. As you probably know, we have 2 models. Deployment models, the rolling releases, which are the feature releases that are happening each 2 to 3 months, and the extended service release that is serviced for 18 months after shipping. So if you're less about features and more about purely integrations and absolute stability of everything, then probably the ESR is for you. Otherwise, normally you're safe with the rolling releases. And again, 21.5 saw the image editor duplicate check, 21.9 saw the search improvements, bulk upload, text editor, smart to use. 21.12 will see improved work integration, and so on and so forth. So there is value in delivering those new features your users, because if they're used to cloud software, like, I don't know, if other vendors, right? So there's new functionality all the time, and in 2021 it's hard to argue while nothing is happening, nothing is going on with your system. In this case, I think Teams, every second week there is a flash that tells me that a new feature has been deployed. And of course, the same is true, the same cadence or even a higher cadence is true for the cloud, or the multi-tenant cloud applications, Workroom, Drive, and so on. There is a new drop typically every month, but of course it's easier there. It's the platform that's going to be updated. Okay, so before we come to the Q&A, I mean, some questions were already posted and hopefully answered. We've tried to sum up some of the takeaways, at least from our view of this session again. So modernizing your DAM is one about a holistic view of your existing instance, how you're using it. Are you delivering the experience the users are expecting? And are you really taking care of the whole content supply chain? Are you only dealing with manage right now? And maybe it would be good to think about also the create and root part. And of course, if you're a customer that is on-premise now, think about the benefits that would be available by moving to the cloud with us. Most obviously, of course, staying current, delivering new functionality, better experience for your users. Have us do the heavy work, right? Take care about performance, take care about backups, SLAs, and so on and so forth, and keep your instance safe and secure and reliable. And of course, with the cloud, with subscription comes transparent cost of ownership, no update, yes, no, how much effort, and so on and so forth. Also, and that's something that's very easily done. I mean, again, it's a bit of effort, to be honest, right? But it would really also help, I guess, delivering value for users by decluttering the system using the tools that Content Hub gives you, the filtering, the SIM search, to declutter the repo by segregating content that maybe no longer is relevant, and give your users a cleaner repo to find the relevant content from. Okay, so now we would take your questions or maybe your shared experiences, if that's something you want to do. Is there something online, maybe?
Yeah, we have a couple of questions online. The first one is, are there different models for cloud hosting regarding SLAs?
Yes, there are. They are, maybe you can chip in here, actually. There's...
What was the question exactly about SLAs?
It's different SLAs for cloud hosting. Are there different SLAs for cloud hosting?
Actually, there are. Yeah. It's depending on the model. It's depending what is necessary for the customer itself, and I think it's not standardized yet. So we need to talk about that in individually, actually. But there are different models we can talk about.
Okay, then I will move on to the next one. Can the transformation from on-prem to cloud also be done by partners?
Yes, in principle, yes. We've formalized the process. We've already shared the process also with select partners. But the matter of the fact is that not all of it can be done by partners. So there will be a work share between the partner and us, because it's our cloud. So we are responsible for deploying. We are responsible for for example, also if it's necessary, the database migration and so on. So there's certainly obviously something the partner can do and offload work from us, especially also if it's about doing the update in the course of the migration, or consulting with revamping the database model, the data model and stuff like that. But sort of the core migration task itself, so putting the binaries in the cloud, putting the database in the cloud, that's something we have to do. But everything else is also something a partner can do.
And then maybe one that is closely connected to this, and we've talked about custom developments before, so for the migration, if there are custom developments or customization on customer side, how does the process look here to ensure that the transition or the migration to the cloud is smooth?
So for in this case, there needs to be obviously, there are two things we can do. So one would be to have a shared Git repo. So that's very technical now. A shared Git repo to have the code available for us in the cloud to be able to deploy, and also if a partner has developed it, then the partner can do the updating. Or the partner can deliver to us updated versions of their customizations, obviously tested with the latest version, so that we can then deploy in the cloud. That's the two things we can do. So either the code, or certified compatible jars that we can then deploy. Anybody else in the room?
I have a
Pierre.
question.
Pierre, wait.
Oh, thank you very much. In regards to the AI tools that you've built, are you planning on having additional AI solutions available in the future? One example, one of our customers, I think we've talked about this, is looking for a thesaurus. They want to be able to, the tagging that we do right now is very vertical. It's analyzing the image. What they're looking is for synonyms, antonyms, multiple ways of tagging this, not only analyzing the image, but going much further, like a general thesaurus would be able to do. Typically, I guess, is something we could call also AI analysis, but calling external services to do this analysis.
That's already kind of happening, because there are plugins, again, marketplace, so integration is a big part of our offering. There are offerings that use other tagging services. Imaga and Brix is going to do something with Azure recognition services, right? So there is already that capability, and they add value, obviously, but in these cases, the data are obviously sent to third-party services and leave the CELUM cloud. But that's something that's definitely possible. It's already being done. Okay. For us, we also have plans of what we want to support in the future, and it's more about. For example, we had a discussion yesterday where it was about being able to remove the background and separating the object in the foreground automatically, stuff like that. So really supporting the user when it comes to how content can be used and repurposed. Okay. Okay.
Anything else?
We have two more questions online, and one is actually relating to what you just elaborated on, marketplace connectors and compatibility between on-prem and cloud installations. How is this managed?
For marketplace connectors, there's no limit or enforcing a specific subscription model. They can be deployed in any kind of deployment model, be it on-prem or in the cloud.
And then there's two more actually. What's the minimum required bandwidth a company should have to work in the cloud?
The minimum required bandwidth. That's a good question. It depends a bit on, I guess, the kind of assets they're working on, right? So if it's gigabytes of video, then latency at some point is going to be an issue, right? But typically, the connectivity of a modern internet access for a company should be ample bandwidth. And of course, there is always, Drive, for example, to have content synchronized once locally, being worked on locally, and then once it's done, sending it back to the cloud, stuff like that, to alleviate any bandwidth pressure that you might experience. But I guess if you can, watch a YouTube video or even this conference stream now with your company account, then you should be good, right?
And there's one more, but this relates a little bit more to your Nova UI Masterclass. It's about training material and if there's something available already.
Yes, there is. Obviously, there is the online help, for example, that's part of the Content Hub deployment that can show users how Nova is working. There are explainer videos on YouTube you can watch, right? That shows basic, exploring, filtering, upload, download, the basic use cases that anybody can watch that. It's on YouTube. And so another option could be to ask our ECU to get access on demo CELUM.net, for example, to try it out, yeah? And experience the onboarding tool that shows you around. That are ways to look at Nova, and of course joining the afternoon session. That's as well. Okay.
There's one more that goes a little bit more towards Daniel. It's about licensing and how the migration looks here. So if you have an existing on-prem license agreement, how does this look with a cloud migration? What options do customers have?
Generally, we are talking about that also customized, so we go into the details, how much migration effort it is taking so far. I think that is also a valid point because we have been talking about it is very easy and it should be more or less plug and play. And I think that is sometimes also the hurdle of the customers, that they're thinking that they need one month or something to migrate. But I think that is not the case because most of the time it's in 1 week or 2 weeks time. Yeah? So we are looking at that, how much migration effort it takes, and afterwards we're converting that into the cloud version in a user-based model, which is very easy, calculable, and scalable afterwards.
Was there another question here in the audience?
Sorry. Obviously, we're still, around at lunch, and then, of course, we can also talk in German. I hope you gain something from this session, some information that helps you in approaching the task of modernizing your DAM. And thanks for attending, and have a nice remaining day, and obviously a safe homeward journey if you're traveling.
Thank you very much.